Hey everybody, it's Jeff Holiday again. I've got some great news for all you pro-science critical thinkers out there. On the 24th of July, a video was uploaded to YouTube in which famed astrophysicist and TV personality, host of the show Cosmos, Neil deGrasse Tyson, revealing how he feels about genetically modified organisms. His response, delivered in his tried and true eloquence, is remarkable, of course.
I'm amazed how much objection genetically modified foods are receiving from the public. It smacks of the fear factor that exists at every new emergent science where people don't fully understand it or don't fully know or embrace its consequences and so therefore reject it.
Without missing a beat and within 20 seconds, Neil has summed up the entire problem with this situation. People who are really afraid of genetically modified organisms ultimately are afraid of a new type of technology. And historically speaking, people who were more of a dogmatic or even sometimes spiritual persuasion have rallied against proven life-saving technologies such as heart transplants, tissue transplants, pacemakers, even insulin for diabetes. Oh, and don't forget vaccines. People still, for some strange reason, rally against vaccines. So is it any wonder that this new technology might be shunned initially, and people might be kind of hesitant and afraid? Of course, it makes perfect sense, but you don't have to, and Neil explains why.
What most people don't know, but they should, is that practically every food you buy in a store for consumption by humans is genetically modified food. You list all the fruit and all the vegetables and ask yourself, is there a wild counterpart to this? If there is, it's not as large, it's not as sweet, it's not as juicy, and it has way more seeds in it. We have systematically genetically modified all the foods, the vegetables and animals that we have eaten ever since we cultivated them. It's called artificial selection.
Too true, Neil, and most people don't really quite understand how genetic modification works, and also what the real connection is between hybridization and genetic modification. In fact, most of the food that we buy, as Neil points out in this video, is completely different than it was even just 30 years ago. When you breed a plant out in the wild, you have lots and lots of genetic drift going back and forth between. It's uncontrolled, it's very messy, you don't know what you're going to get. With genetic modification, you're doing the same thing, but in very small, specific ways. Yet still, you have these constant inundations from these fear-mongering, chemophobic, Luddite websites and personalities trying to tell you how it is completely different. In fact, it is dangerous. It is deadly. We don't know the consequences. Nothing could be further from the truth. The very process by how it works means that we have more control over it and we know what it does. Doing it through conventional breeding is not only messy, makes a lot of waste, but is completely random. Fun fact for everybody out there, pigs are not native to North America, South America, or Australia. Yet pigs are all over those three continents. Why? We brought them there. And they also completely changed form from how they originally were because they adapted to their environment and to the needs that we put them toward. Wild pigs will regress and turn feral. These are adaptive traits. Horses, too. Horses are a very big one. Horses evolved here in North America for millions and millions and millions of years. Then, around 70,000 years ago, there was a land bridge between Alaska and Asia. Horses went over into Asia, humans went into North America. Since then, the horses died out. Either they were hunted to extinction or maybe there was a type of disease, it doesn't really matter, but they were all gone. So, horses evolved with humans in Asia and Europe and then spread out from there. And they adapted to their environments as well as what we use them for, which is why you have an Arabian horse is very, very different than a Mongol horse.
So we are creating and modifying the biology of the world to serve our needs. I don't have a problem with that because we've been doing that for tens of thousands of years. So chill out.
Absolutely. We all need to just chill out. Somewhere in the middle of all this ridiculous rhetoric and propaganda, there's a conversation that we can actually have about how we want to genetically modify things, or how far we want to go with them, what our comfort zone is, what the purpose should be, who should be in control of it. how much funding we should put towards it versus this versus that. There's a really good conversation here. And Neil brings up a great point. We should just take it easy because the difference between what we do now and what we did then is really not that much. Not really, despite what people want you to believe. So there you go. Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out in favor of GMOs. Huge news. And everybody breathes a collective sigh of relief. Ah, right? It's cool. Neil says they're fine. We don't have to worry anymore, right? No, sadly, that's not what happened. Instead, the comments section of the YouTube video, the Raw story, Mother Jones, and pretty much anywhere that this was shared just blew up with anti-GMO zealotry, regurgitating the same old tropes, spreading fear, sowing deception, and of course they had to bring up our favorite word, Monsanto. So let's take a look at a couple of these. Artificial selection is not the same as gene splicing. David Suzuki is a geneticist and explains the differences. Alright, look. David Suzuki is a really respected geneticist, and he was an old TV personality in Canada, and he seems like a really sweet guy. But he's getting old, and he's not keeping up with the times. He was invited to a panel not that long ago on climate change, and he made a complete ass out of himself because he didn't understand what he was talking about, and it became very apparent. So I got a lot of love for the guy, but I'm not going to take him as an expert. There's a big difference between hybridization and genetic modification. I'm not saying that GMOs are necessarily dangerous, but if I was a vegan, I would like to know if the tomato I'm eating has a pig's gene spliced in it. Nothing wrong with labels. Let the free market decide. First and foremost, there are no GMO tomatoes. There are none. They started to make one, it didn't turn out how they wanted it to, they junked it. No more GMO tomatoes. Why you keep seeing all these damn images of tomatoes being injected with stuff, which is not how you genetically modify shit, by the way, I don't know. But furthermore, who the fuck would want to splice in pig DNA into a vegetable? What would it do? That's just stupid. Okay, Tyson, you just lost some major cool points with that statement. Why I'm against GMOs is because of Monsanto creating crops that will only produce if their horrible chemicals are used. Monsanto GMO crops force farmers to buy new seed every year. Monsanto chemicals are the main suspect for all the beehive collapses around the world. Monsanto is evil, Mr. Tyson, and if you're on board with them... Alright, let's take this one piece at a time. No, Monsanto is not making crops that will only work if they use their horrible, horrible chemicals. Conventional, non-genetically modified crops can also use glyphosate or Roundup because it's not a genetically modified organism, nor is it a component of a genetically modified organism. It is a conventional herbicide. And also, if you really think Monsanto has anything to do with the bees dying, I don't think you know what you're talking about, and you should probably look into it a little bit more. And most importantly out of this whole thing, Neil deGrasse Tyson didn't even say Monsanto. Not once in the video did he say Monsanto. It wasn't even referenced, yet somehow, anytime we talk about genetically modified organisms, you have to bring up Monsanto. Why is that? Tyson is way off base here and should stay in the realm of astrophysics. As Bill Mayer had mentioned the other day, if you have bread that even mold won't touch after a few weeks, should we even eat it? The same is true for produce. If insects won't eat it or can't consume it, should we? Alright, look, Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist, yes, but he is also an incredibly intelligent human being. Incredibly intelligent. And just by sheer amount of time he's spent in academia and surrounded by brilliant minds from all shades of the world and different fields of study, especially just doing Cosmos, he has to know a lot about genetics. That's part of what he's teaching. Makes me wonder how it is that you think that you know better than him. Is your Google foo so powerful that you can find irrefutable evidence that GMOs are evil and everything is terrible and you know better than Neil deGrasse Tyson? Please, show me. But as so many others have mentioned, is it really the GMO or the fact that they are slathered in Agent Orange like Roundup 2 to prevent neighboring weeds to grow? Glyphosate is not Agent Orange. It's nothing like Agent Orange. You're an idiot. Not for nothing, but I don't want to eat anything that came in contact with Roundup. Okay? The warnings on the Roundup container should be warning enough, but for some reason, it's okay to eat vegetation that was bathed in it over and over. I'd like you to right now, if you're watching this video and you believe this kind of stuff, I want you to right now go and Google Rotenone. and go and see what it does to people that are exposed to it. It's an organic pesticide. Nobody has to put a label on if your produce was bathed in that. Isn't that kind of a problem? So there you have it, Neil deGrasse Tyson on the side of the good guys. Gee, I don't know how we're going to be able to stand up next to a guy who thinks he can fly, a new age guru who lies about her degree, and a health ranger who calls for the deaths of journalists and compares people to Nazis. Might be getting rough, guys. Hello, my name is Jeff Holiday, and I make videos on science, skepticism, and reason. If you would like to see more videos like the one you just watched, please click the subscribe button down below. Rate me if you liked it. Leave a comment if you want. I'll do my best to get back to you. Have a great day.